Good morning. We are starting with a new chapter, that is chapter 1 of economics, the story of the village Palampur. This story of village Palampur is about a village which is hypothetical. Hypothetical word means imaginary village which is nowhere on in our country. As you can say that if you ask me where the Palampur village is, I can't tell you because it's an hypothetical village. It's nowhere on the map of India or in anywhere in any of the state. So this village has 450 families belonging to several different castes. The 80 upper caste families own the majority of the village. Their houses, some of them are quite large and are made of bricks with cement plastering, whereas the SCs Dalit comprise 1/3 of the population and live in one corner of the village and in much smaller houses, some of which are of mud and straw. So this is the simple structure which is shown of a village in which it consists of 450 families. So as the 450 families were living in that village, so most of the houses have electric connections also, electricity power, all the tube wells in the field, and is used in various types of small business. Palampur has 2 primary schools and 1 high school. There is a primary health center run by the government and 1 private dispensary where the sick are treated. So overall we can say that the Palampur village is having the electric facility also. As electricity is there, so the tube wells are running, and the Palampur village have 2 primary schools and 1 high school, whereas 1 government dispensary or the health center is also there and 1 private dispensary where sick persons can be treated. They are going for the treatments, right? Further, Palampur is well developed and connected with neighboring villages and towns like Raiganj and Shahpur. If we are talking about that the Palampur village is connected with the town, so there might be transportation facilities also there, and the road connectivity is there. So the story of the village Palampur is imaginary that will allow us to know about the farming well. There are 2 types of activities in Palampur village, that is farm activity and non-farm activities, which we will study in the coming topic. So till here we come to know about the Palampur village, which is looking like it is a village with the lots of facilities, right? As Palampur is having the 2 types of activity, farm activity and non-farming activities, so from here the pic you can see that the farm activities. So if we talk about the farm activity, means that growing crops and all, which we will study further, right? So here we will talk about the farming activity in Palampur. Before starting with the topic, first of all we must know, if we want to do any sort of activity or means any activity, for that we want to go with the production work. So for that the organization is required. Here we will talk about the organization of production. The very first requirement is land. Obviously where we will do the production? We will do the production on land. Second requirement is labor. If I am having a land but I have no labor to work upon, so is it possible that I can go with the production work? No. The third requirement is physical capital, which we will further study in detail, and the next one is physical capital, that is we further divide it into 3 parts. The very first one is fixed capital, working capital and human capital. So these 3 organizations are required for the production. Again, shall we repeat? The very first one is land. Land is required, labor is required, physical capital is required, which physical capital is divided into three parts, that is fixed capital, working capital and human capital. If suppose I have to set up an industry, again I need a land for it, and for land the labor is required. If I am having a land but I am not having a labor, how can I go with the production work? And again the fixed capital and working capital and human capital are required so that I can go with the production, any sort of production, either agriculture work or setting up of an industry or engaging myself in the transportation work, right? Very first factor which is required is land. The first requirement is land and the other natural resources such as water, forest and minerals, right? If I have to go with the cropping or the agriculture work, I need the water. If I want to go with the mining work, I need the minerals over there. Again land, I get the minerals from land, right? Land is required for the production. The next factor which is required is labor. If I am having a labor, I am having a land but I am not having a labor, so that will not satisfy or that will not increase my production and it will not help me out to get the production. So some activities require fully qualified workers and highly educated workers to perform necessary tasks. Some activities require only workers who have physical capacity, but in every activity labor is required. For example, if I have to engage a person for the agriculture work, so I again need a labor, and if I want to engage a person for the mining work, again the labor is required, right? Or I want to set up an industry, then again the labor is required. So any sort of work, if I want to do the production, the second very important factor is labor itself, right? Now the third important factor is physical factor, that is fixed capital I required. Tools, machines, buildings can be used in the production over many years and are called fixed capitals. Once I will purchase the tools or machines, only the repairment work is required. I don't have to change it again and again. Building, are we going to change the building again and again? No. So they comes under the fixed capital. Once I will purchase a land, so I don't have to change it. That comes under the fixed capital. Second is tools and machines range from very simple tools such as farmer plow to sophisticated machines. The sophisticated machines includes generators, turbines, computers, etc. So these all come under physical capital, that is fixed capital. The next is, so the second type of physical capital is working capital. Here the production requires a variety of raw material like yarn used by weaver and a clay used by potter. Also some money is always required during production to make payments and buy other necessary materials. Raw materials and money in hand are working capital, or unlike tools, machines, buildings, these are used up in production. So here in money in hand comes under the working capital. Whatever the tools, whatever I want to purchase, that can only be done with money. So money comes under the working capital. So this is the very second important thing. If I want to purchase the raw material or anything, that comes under the working capital. For that the money is required, right? What will happen if I have land, I have money in hand as a fixed capital and working capital, but if I don't have human beings? Yes, the third important physical capital is human capital itself. We can also say that the next requirement we will need the knowledge and enterprise to be able to put together land, labor, physical capital and produce an output. These days they are called human capital. So every production is organized by combining land, water, physical capital and human capital, which are known as factors of production. As if we talk about the definition of a resource, which itself says that whatever the things which are there on earth and can be utilized or utilized by the human beings to satisfy their needs is termed as resource. So whatever there is there on earth, if we want to term them as a resource, for that we need human being itself. So we can't forget that human is again an important resource which becomes a capital in a factors of production. So wherever we want to do any sort of changes or we want to make anything more valuable, here we need the human capital itself, right? So in this, till here we have studied about the story of the village Palampur, in which we talked about the people, how they are living, and now we are talking about the factors of production. In the next video we will continue with the next topic.